On a stormy night, tearing open the skies of New Jersey, a poor nurse risked her life to save a businessman who was dying in a wrecked car. She planned to disappear, leaving him with nothing but a hazy memory of the angel-like woman. But when fate forced them to meet again, the truth erupted. She was raising 3 orphans alone, amidst cruel rumors and the threat of losing their home to society. This is not just a love story, but an anthem of courage, faith, and how a small family fights against the whole world to exist. The sky seemed torn into pieces by piercing blue lightning, slashing across the cold, wet night of the southern suburbs of New Jersey. Rain no longer fell in separate drops but poured down as a dense curtain of water, blurring even the already faint glow of the streetlights. That night, Interstate 95 turned into a raging river, headlights flaring in the storm only to vanish immediately, like fish swept away by a torrent. On a deserted stretch of road, a black BMW roared madly, its tires splashing water in every direction, struggling to grip the slick, flooded surface. The man behind the wheel was Ethan Caldwell, 32, a familiar name in financial magazines and at New York's high society parties. Usually, he wields power in boardrooms, making decisions that send stocks soaring or crashing, forcing seasoned rivals to yield. But tonight, power and money meant nothing. Every passing minute, his father Richard Caldwell, founder of the Caldwell Industries empire, was battling a heart attack at St. Mary's Medical Center. Ethan's hands clenched the wheel until his knuckles whitened. He had missed too many dinners, too many birthdays, chasing deals and lucrative contracts. Amid the pounding rain on the windshield, the memory of his father's eyes, stern, full of disappointment, flashed vividly. The last time they spoke, Richard had quietly asked, "Do you ever wonder if money will hold you when sickness comes?" Ethan brushed it aside then, never imagining it would be the last question his father would ever ask. The phone buzzed violently on the passenger seat, glowing blue with a call from the hospital. Ethan's chest tightened, but as his trembling hand reached out, his eyes left the road for just one heartbeat. In that instant, a white blur appeared in the headlights, a deer, like a ghost. The screech of brakes, the car skidding, then everything shattered. The world spun in a roar of twisting metal, breaking glass, and the stench of burning gasoline. The BMW whirled like a toy before careening down an embankment, slamming against an old oak. Darkness surged in before Ethan could whisper his father's name. Meanwhile, a few miles away, Naomi Brooks trudged along the muddy sidewalk of Jefferson Avenue. Her sneakers, long worn through, sank into freezing puddles, each step releasing a weary squish. She had just left the medical center, where she was finishing her final clinical shifts for her nursing certification. She should have been on the bus home, but her old car had broken in the middle of the storm. And so Naomi was forced to walk 5 miles through the tempest, tearing the city apart. Naomi was only 26, yet her sun-darkened face and shadowed eyes made her look older. Poverty clung to her like a shadow. Her mother gone too soon. Her father vanished. Her grandmother Evelyn the only one who raised her. Evelyn had passed just months ago, leaving Naomi nothing but a cramped rented room above an immigrant-owned laundromat. Once within her reach, the shimmering future of college had become nothing but a luxury dream. She hadn't chosen nursing out of ambition, but because it was the only way she believed she could survive and help others. Amid the howling wind, Naomi murmured a prayer. "God, you said you would never place a burden too heavy for us to bear, but I feel like I'm about to break." A flash of lightning split the sky, illuminating the scene below, twisted metal glinting cold blue. Naomi froze. Down the slope, a luxury car was mangled, white smoke rising from the engine. Without a thought, she rushed down, stumbling hard in the mud, her knees tearing open, but still crawling forward. Inside, a man lay unconscious, blood streaming across his forehead, his head slumped to the side. Naomi's heart clenched. She banged on the shattered glass. "Can you hear me? Are you awake?" No response. The reek of gasoline filled the air, the wreck groaning as if it would collapse. Naomi drew a breath, slipped through the passenger door that had flung open, and crawled inside. Up close, his face was clear in the flash of lightning. Strikingly handsome yet pale, lips trembling as if grasping for breath. Her hands shaking, Naomi checked his pulse, then ripped apart her white blouse, tearing strips to bandage the wound. Lessons from her clinical training flooded her mind. Keep the airway clear, stop the bleeding, limit movement. You're not allowed to die. Not tonight. Not while I'm here, Naomi whispered, pressing hard against the wound, praying under her breath. His eyes fluttered open, an uncanny blue, filled with pain yet tinged with surprise. Am I dead? He gasped. Not yet. Not while I'm here, Naomi replied, firm though her voice quivered. A strange current passed between them in that instant. Amid the storm, two lives from worlds apart suddenly touched inside the wreck. The man reached weakly, leaving a streak of blood on Naomi's cheek, murmuring, "You look like an angel." Naomi gripped his hand tightly. "I'm no angel. I just happened to pass by." In the distance, sirens wailed, gradually drowning out the storm. Naomi exhaled in relief, still holding his hand until the paramedics pulled him out. Amid the chaos of flashing lights, as Ethan was lifted onto the stretcher, he twisted his head, searching for the woman. But Naomi had vanished into the rain, leaving a gold-plated necklace in the mud behind. Ethan was carried away into the night, sirens piercing the storm. The only proof she was real in his hand was the worn necklace. In the ambulance racing through flooded streets, Ethan drifted in and out of consciousness. The sirens screamed, red and blue lights flashing like a nightmare. Each time he shut his eyes, the woman's face appeared dark, burning eyes, small hands pressing firmly against his wound. A warm voice echoed, "You're not allowed to die." In his delirium, he felt the thin chain slip into his palm. He clutched it as his sole treasure, and in that moment, the fear of death faded. In its place rose a strange resolve, to live, to find her. Across the city, Naomi Brooks forced herself onward through the storm after leaving the crash behind. She couldn't stay. Someone like her, a young black woman, clothes torn and blood-stained, wandering in an unfamiliar neighborhood, no police officer would believe her story. Life had taught Naomi this. Poverty doesn't just strip away opportunity, it makes your truth vanish into thin air. She stopped beneath the sagging awning of a closed liquor store, shivering with cold, drenched through. Her hands were still sticky with blood, she couldn't even tell if it was his or hers. Naomi looked down at the rip in her blouse. Once her best white shirt was chosen for her clinical exam, she'd make a better impression. Now it was nothing but rags. At least he's alive, she told herself. Yet in her chest surged a feeling she couldn't name. The connection in that gaze was too authentic and deep and frightened her. No one had ever looked at her like that, as if she wasn't just a poor, worn-out girl, but something precious. Ethan opened his eyes 3 days later at Street, Mary's medical center, for the first time. The room was stark white, the sharp scent of disinfectant heavy, fluorescent lights casting his face even paler. At his bedside, a nurse adjusted the IV, her voice steady. "Mr. Caldwell, you're awake. Dr. Reeves will be here shortly." Ethan tried to sit up, but stabbing pain along his ribs forced him down. Moments later, Dr. Reeves entered, his expression a mixture of professionalism and sorrow. "You were very fortunate, Ethan. A terrible accident, but you'll recover. However," he paused, "your father didn't make it. He passed 17 minutes after your ambulance left." The room thickened, the air disappearing. Ethan turned his face away, eyes blurring. He had lost the race against time, no chance to speak forgiveness, or to be forgiven. All those years chasing wealth now scarred him beyond repair. In his anguish, he reached into the hospital gown pocket. The fragile gold necklace was still there. He clenched it tight, whispering, "She's the reason I'm still alive." As for Naomi, after that night, life went on as if nothing had happened. Endless hours at the community clinic, late-night cleaning shifts in office towers, babysitting jobs to scrape together rent. Yet the image of the man in the wreck clung to her. Each time she closed her eyes, Naomi saw those strange blue eyes staring deep into hers, like two souls had touched. She thought of going back to the hospital to ask after him, but reason stopped her. Who is he? Some rich man? What right do I have to step into his world? So Naomi buried the memory, treating it like a strange storm that had passed through her life. She didn't know that Ethan Caldwell was pulling strings across the city, hiring detectives, and chasing every clue to find the angel in the storm who had saved him. That stormy night, two fates that should never have crossed collided violently. One man, accustomed to skyscraper boardrooms. One woman, accustomed to leaking basement ceilings. One rich but lonely. One poor but full of faith. And in that meeting, a journey began. One no storm could erase, a journey against prejudice, against injustice, to claim a real family. When Ethan Caldwell finally awoke fully at St. Mary's Hospital, 3 days had passed. White light spilled from the ceiling, the monitor beeped steadily, and his body ached so badly that even the slightest movement felt like being pierced by needles. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the void opening inside him. His father, Richard Caldwell, had died while he was unconscious. The news didn't come with wails of grief, but with the cruel calm of Dr. Reeves' voice. He called your name until his last breath. That sentence echoed in Ethan's head, over and over, like a funeral bell. The father who had been stern his whole life, the man Ethan both resented and yearned to be acknowledged by, was gone, leaving distances between them that could never be bridged. And now there was no chance, ever again. Ethan lay motionless, eyes fixed on the white ceiling. He replayed every argument, every family dinner he abandoned for contracts, every time his father silently watched from the porch without saying a word. Success in the business world suddenly felt hollow. Rising stocks, multiplying assets, none of it could buy back lost years. In that despair, his hand tightened around the only thing that survived the crash, an old, fragile gold necklace, its chain so thin it seemed one tug could snap it. It bore scratches, dulled by time, but it was worth more than any billion-dollar deal to Ethan. It was proof that the girl in the storm, the one who had pulled him from death's grip, was real, not a hallucination conjured by blood loss and fear. He didn't know her name, didn't know why she was there, didn't know why she vanished without a trace. But one thing he knew with certainty: those eyes could never be mistaken. The eyes of someone who didn't look at him with pity, nor because he was a Caldwell, but with something else, a fierce resolve that his life was worth fighting for. The funeral of Richard Caldwell took place at Trinity Baptist Church, solemn and crowded with familiar faces from the business world. The newspapers screamed, "Caldwell Empire loses its pillar, future rests on only son." Expensive wreaths covered the steps, and condolences spilled out in rehearsed phrases. But amid the sea of tailored suits, Ethan felt only coldness. He stood silently before the coffin, remembering his father's final phone call on that fateful night, his voice trembling from the heart attack, but still calling, "Jimmy, can you hear me?" Ethan had driven like a madman to get there, but all it ended with was a wrecked car and a missed farewell. In his mind, his father's body on a hospital bed blurred with the face of the girl in the storm loss on one side, a miracle on the other. Mourners kept approaching, speaking of the company's future, the shareholders, and how Ethan must step into his father's shoes. He nodded absently, but his thoughts wandered. When the service ended, he didn't return straight to the Caldwell estate. Instead, he drove to the office of private investigator Thomas Blake. Blake, a stocky ex-cop, kept an office cluttered with files and cameras. He raised a brow when Ethan placed the necklace on his desk. "I want you to find the owner of this. She saved my life." Blake turned the necklace under the lamp, noticing the letters EB etched inside likely initials. He nodded. "Not much to go on. But with your money, I'll tear this city apart." Ethan exhaled, his voice hoarse. "I don't care what it costs. I know. If I don't find her, then everything I'm living is just a soulless shell." He caught his reflection in the mirror behind Blake, face bandaged, eyes sunken, funeral, black suit. A stranger stared back. The man who once commanded boardrooms now looked lost. But deep in those eyes flickered something new, faith that somewhere in this city, a woman was walking through rain, the one who had given him the chance to start over. After the funeral, Ethan returned to his penthouse atop a Manhattan glass tower. Thousands of square feet, soaring ceilings, and glass walls overlooked the Hudson. Once, He had been proud of this place, a monument to success, stocked with foreign liquor, million-dollar abstract paintings, floors polished to a mirror shine. But that night, it was nothing but a hollow void. He shed his coat, loosened his tie, and collapsed onto the sofa, still gripping the necklace. No father's voice shouting from the downstairs office, no old butler waiting with tomorrow's schedule. The penthouse had become a mausoleum, full of expensive things but not a trace of warmth. In the wall mirror, Ethan saw himself, dark circles under his eyes, stitches running across his forehead, one cheek bruised purple. He recalled that moment in the car, when everything shattered and he thought he would die. But those small hands had held him back. "Not an angel," she said. Yet to Ethan, no word fit better. He opened his laptop, searching desperately. Naomi EB necklace, woman rescues man in I-95 crash. Dozens of irrelevant results appeared, news of the storm, reports of his own accident, online chatter about Caldwell Industries after Richard's death. Not a single mention of her. Leaning back, eyes shut, Ethan pressed the necklace to his chest. Two voices echoed inside him, tangled together. His father's voice hoarse, accusing, full of regret, and hers warm, steady, promising he wouldn't die. One was a heavy past, the other a fragile hope. And he knew, unless he found her, he'd remain trapped in this twilight of grief. In the days that followed, Ethan threw himself into the search. He hired Blake and a team of assistants to check hospitals, review traffic cameras, and question paramedics from that night. The answer was always the same. When we arrived, you were alone in the car. No one else was around. Ethan refused to believe it. He remembered her eyes, her trembling but firm hand pressing on his wound. He even remembered her voice, weary yet determined. There was no way he had imagined her in shock. Night after night, he lay awake. Rain tapping against the windows revived the sounds of the accident. Sometimes he startled awake, heart pounding, as if he still heard her whisper, "You can't give up." His luxurious penthouse was nothing but a prison, and he its inmate captive to obsession. One day, in a conversation with Blake, the detective studied him, then sighed. "Are you sure this isn't just guilt over your father's death? Maybe you're clinging to this girl as an escape." Ethan's voice hardened. "I'm sure. I remember the smell of mud in her hair, and her voice trembled when she prayed. Don't tell me I imagined that." Blake shrugged, though his eyes softened. He had seen men lost in illusions before. But there was something different in Ethan's voice, absolute, unshakable. One morning, as sunlight streamed through the vast glass wall, Ethan gazed down at the river of traffic below. It struck him. In this noisy city, Naomi, if that was her name, was perhaps hurrying to work, jostling on the subway, or eating a cold sandwich before her shift. He stood on the 42nd floor, cocooned in luxury, watching helplessly from above. At that moment, Ethan understood that class, money, and power were the walls keeping them apart. But that truth only drove him harder to break them down. He no longer cared about deals or gossip. He only needed to see her again and say, "Thank you for saving me," and "Please don't disappear again." The city moved on. Meetings continued. Shareholders pressed him back into negotiations, but Ethan pushed everything aside. While others spoke of profit margins in the vast boardroom, his eyes stayed fixed on the necklace lying on the table, as if in a trance. Slowly, the Caldwell empire drifted into waiting mode while Ethan began a new journey. Not one of chasing profit, but of searching for his soul in the eyes of the unknown woman from the storm. The city was still soaked in the drizzle of early autumn when Naomi Brooks laid her grandmother, Evelyn, to rest. The cemetery on the edge of Newark was patchy with grass, and old gravestones were leaning askew. The funeral was small, just a few elderly neighbors, an old pastor with a hoarse voice, and Naomi, in a faded black dress, her shoulders trembling. Evelyn Brooks left nothing behind except unconditional love and a small rented room on Jefferson Avenue. She was the one who raised Naomi after her parents were gone, taught her to read the Bible, and taught her that faith could keep a person standing even when the world turned against them. But now, even that faith was wavering. As the coffin sank into the earth, Naomi felt her childhood, her only anchor, disappearing with it. That night, the empty room above Nguyen's laundromat felt heavier than ever. The droning of the washing machines below couldn't fill the silence. Naomi lay on her bed, clutching a worn pillow, trying to hold back tears. No one was there to whisper her complaints to after a long day. No more ginger tea at night. Only silence, suffocating. A week later, before her grief could even settle, Naomi received a midnight call. Her cracked old phone blared, the screen flashing Danielle. Naomi's heart leapt her closest friend from their foster care days, the sister she chose. But the voice on the other end wasn't Danielle's. It was a police officer's, steady and cold. "Are you Naomi Brooks? We found your number listed as an emergency contact. The owner of this phone, Danielle Harris, died in an accident at 1 a.m. this morning." Naomi froze. The phone slipped from her hand, her heart torn apart. She forced her voice through trembling lips. "And her 3 kids, they survived, thanks to the car seats. They're at St. Mary's Medical Center now. We need a family member to come immediately." Naomi threw on her coat and ran into the night. The drizzle didn't touch her. In her head, only 3 names pulsed over and over: Grace, Joy, Caleb. Children she had held as newborns, children she had once promised to always be there for. The hospital was quiet under harsh fluorescent light. Naomi rushed down the hallway into the children's ward. 3 pairs of innocent eyes looked back at her. Grace, 4 years old, sat curled on the bed, her gaze strangely solemn. Joy sobbed, face streaked with tears. Little Caleb clutched a teddy bear, eyes searching for his mother. Naomi fell to her knees, gathering them all into her arms. They burst into tears, instinctively calling Mama and clinging to her warmth. Naomi choked on her tears, whispering as she soothed them, "It's okay, babies. From now on, Mama will be here. I'll never leave you." Nearby, a social worker, Monica Green, watched with eyes caught between pity and doubt. She said, "By law, if there's no legal guardian, these children will be placed in foster care." Naomi turned, her eyes red but blazing with resolve. "No, I'll raise them. Danielle always called me her sister. I promised her." Monica scanned the file and shook her head. "You're young, unmarried, have an unstable income, and have no proper housing. Are you sure you understand the burden you're taking on?" Naomi held the children tighter, her voice unwavering. "I understand, and I still choose it. They are my family." Naomi brought the 3 children back to her small room on Jefferson Avenue by dawn. Already cramped, it shrank further with 3 makeshift beds of old mattresses and thin church blankets. Yet in the sparkle of the children's eyes, Naomi saw hope. She had little but had love, and she believed it was enough to begin. The first day Naomi officially became Mama was sweet chaos. Grace woke early, silently watching Naomi prepare breakfast like an adult, her serious gaze a mirror of her late mother. Joy laughed and cried in the same breath, fighting with Caleb over a spoon, then burying her face in Naomi's shoulder for comfort. Caleb, the youngest, just learning to speak, babbled Mama whenever Naomi stepped out of the room. The tiny 300-square-foot apartment became an entire universe. The only bed was given to the children, and Naomi laid a thin mattress on the floor. The old fridge rattled, holding just a carton of milk, a few bruised apples, and a water bottle. Food stamps hadn't arrived yet. Her meager savings were nearly gone after her grandmother's funeral. Naomi watched the children eat clumsily but eagerly, her heart aching and grateful. Days blurred into an endless cycle. Dawn shifts at the community clinic, afternoons babysitting for neighbors to earn a little more, late-night cleaning in downtown offices. Near midnight, she came home, still struggling to sing lullabies and tell stories. Exhaustion often made her doze off in the chair, but she found strength again each time she woke to see 3 peaceful faces. Social worker Monica Green dropped by occasionally. She watched Naomi struggle in the cramped room, her doubt thinly veiled. Once, she spoke plainly, "Naomi, I must be honest. Many single mothers collapse under the weight of even 1 child, let alone 3 who aren't even yours. If you can't manage, say it now. I can arrange better placements for them." Naomi wiped sweat from her brow, dark circles under her eyes, but her gaze burned bright. "No, they're staying here. I promised Danielle. I won't let them be torn apart." Monica stayed silent, then nodded, jotting notes in her book. Naomi knew. One slip, and the system would be ready to take them. Naomi sat by the window overlooking Jefferson Avenue when the children were asleep late at night. The dim yellow streetlight flickered. Rap music thumped from a downstairs apartment. The greasy smell of fast food drifted through the air. She thought of Evelyn, Danielle, and the stormy night when she saved a stranger. Those piercing blue eyes flickered in her mind like a fragile flame. She wondered, was he alive? Did he remember her? Then she shook her head with a bitter smile. A man like him, clearly rich, driving a luxury car, would never come searching for a woman struggling in a cramped, poor apartment. Better to bury that memory and focus on what mattered, the 3 children sleeping peacefully in her arms. One evening, with her money nearly gone, Naomi went to Trinity Baptist Church to ask for help. Pastor William looked at her with deep compassion and quietly handed her a bag of food, cereal, some milk, and donated children's clothes. On the way back, Joy asked, holding her hand, "Mama, why do people give us food?" Naomi paused, then knelt and hugged her. "Because some people believe in kindness, just like we believe in love. And Mama promises, one day, we'll give to others too." Grace, more solemn, stayed quiet, then whispered, "I miss Mama Danielle, but I want to stay with you too, Mama." Naomi hugged all 3 tightly, tears streaming. At that moment, she knew that no matter poverty or prejudice, she would do everything to raise them in love, not abandonment. From then on, Naomi's life was bound to 3 children. Each day was a battle with money, society's judgment, and her exhaustion. Yet in Grace's clear eyes, Joy's bright laughter, Caleb's lisped mama, she found her reason to live. She had lost everything, her grandmother, her best friend, but she had also found everything, a new family. 2 years had passed since the night Naomi Brooks carried 3 children into her small room on Jefferson Avenue. The city hadn't changed much, old buildings still grey with age, garbage heaps still stinking after every rain, car horns echoing day and night. But in the 3rd-floor apartment above the laundromat, the world had turned upside down. From a solitary woman, Naomi was now the mother of 3 preschoolers. Life was an unrelenting grind. Naomi worked 3 jobs, rising at 4 in the morning to clean offices downtown, spending the day as a nurse's assistant at the community clinic, then washing dishes at a bus station restaurant until midnight. She slept no more than 3 or 4 hours, yet still tried to come home with a smile. Grace, now 6, remained solemn, her eyes older than her years. She often sat silently with a tattered book, sounding out each word. Joy, with her fiery curls, was quick and playful, laughing wildly one moment, crying the next, especially when she sensed people's scornful looks at her mother. The gentlest Caleb sang softly the church hymns he picked up, his thin voice pure and sweet. On Jefferson Street, whispers trailed them like shadows. 3 kids, 3 different daddies. Just look at them. A girl that young can't afford this. You know what job she really has. Naomi heard it all but learned to hold her head high as she pushed the stroller forward. Pain stabbed inside her, but in front of the children, she never showed weakness. Once, Grace asked bluntly, her small voice serious, "Mama, why do people look at us like we're bad?" Naomi knelt, holding her daughter's shoulders. "Because they don't understand our family. But remember this, we're special, not bad. What matters isn't what they think, but how much we love each other." Joy chimed in, innocent as ever. "So we're like a superhero family, right, Mama?" Naomi laughed through tears. "That's right, Mama's superhero family." Behind the smiles, harsh reality pressed close. Naomi scraped every cent for rent, food, and medicine each month. Sometimes she had to choose between Caleb's milk and the electric bill. On nights without power, she lit candles, calling it camping indoors, so the children wouldn't feel sad. Neighbors, especially Mrs. Whitaker downstairs, never missed a chance to sneer. One night, when Naomi returned late from work, arms full of leftover food from the restaurant, The older woman blocked the stairwell. You think we don't notice? Men in and out every night. Everyone knows how you earn money. Naomi, exhausted, said nothing, slipping past. Mrs. Whitaker shouted after her, "Those kids will turn out just like their mother." Naomi bit her lip hard, but when she entered the apartment and saw 3 small faces looking up at her, she forced a smile, pretending nothing had happened. At Roosevelt Park one afternoon, Naomi faced it again. Mothers in neat clothes, feeding their children sandwiches, whispered nearby. "That curly-haired one must have a different father. Doesn't look like the other 2. I heard she lives off welfare but dresses herself up, clearly hiding something." Naomi pulled the children away quickly, heart pounding. Joy looked up, asking, "Mama, what are they saying?" Naomi stroked her daughter's hair. "Nothing important, baby, just nonsense." But that night, while mending a torn blouse, Naomi wept silently. She knew, to many, she was only a stereotype, young, black, poor, raising 3 children without fathers. The truth didn't matter. No one cared. Still, Naomi planted seeds of faith in her children. She taught Grace to read library books, taught Joy little hymns, and taught Caleb to pray before meals even if it was only rice and canned beans. Every night, she reminded them, "Never forget, we're not less than anyone. We have love, and love makes us rich." The children believed it, their innocent eyes shining. That belief kept Naomi standing through life's storms. That winter was brutal. Cold winds off the Hudson rattled Newark's streets, slipping through cracked window frames. Naomi wrapped the children in extra blankets and turned the heater to its lowest setting to save power. She lay curled on her thin mattress on the floor, shivering, listening to their steady breaths. Daytime was no kinder. At the supermarket, with a cart holding only cheap bread, milk, and discount cereal, Naomi felt stares from behind. She's paying with food stamps again, probably just using those kids to milk the system. Naomi ignored them, but Grace heard. Her little face flushed red. "Mama works harder than anyone. She's not like that." The woman behind them fell silent, but didn't apologize. Naomi quickly led Grace away, whispering, "Don't waste your strength, sweetheart. We know the truth, and that's enough." The rumors spread through the neighborhood like weeds. Some swore Naomi worked the streets to feed the kids. Others insisted she had babies for different men. Worse, some said it directly in front of the children. One Sunday morning, as Naomi took them to church, Mrs. Carter from downstairs sneered, "Going to pray for forgiveness? Better ask God to cleanse your wicked ways." Naomi froze. Joy clung to her hand, eyes wide with fear. Naomi didn't answer, only bent down and whispered, "Let's go, sweetheart. Don't listen to lies." Inside, rage twisted in her chest, but she knew, one raised voice, and they would call her immoral. Still, a few sparks of kindness flickered. Mrs. Nguyen, the laundromat owner, sometimes knocked on the door with a warm meal. She said, "Eat. You need strength to raise 3 little ones." Naomi cried from gratitude. Small mercies like that reminded her that not everyone was cruel. At night, Naomi told the children stories, not fairy tales, but ones she made from her own life. A poor princess in a tiny room, raising 3 little knights with her love. The children listened, wide-eyed. "Was the princess sad, Mama?" Caleb asked softly. "Yes," Naomi smiled faintly. But every time she saw her 3 knights, she felt strong again. They giggled, drifting to sleep. Only Naomi sat in the dark, wondering how long she'd have to fight prejudice. One late shift, while mopping offices, Naomi overheard 2 guards gossiping. "She's gorgeous. Shame she's got 3 kids with no dads. Bet plenty of guys still line up." "Yeah? But women like that? Trouble." Naomi lowered her head, gripping the mop tight. Humiliation stabbed like needles, but she endured. If she lashed out, she could lose even this job. Yet the deepest wound wasn't gossip. It was the night Grace whispered, "Mama, are we really different from other families?" Naomi hugged her tight, whispering, "Different, yes, but different doesn't mean wrong. We have love, and that makes us stronger than anyone." Grace nodded, but her eyes carried quiet sorrow. Naomi knew her daughter understood more than she admitted. 2 years had taught Naomi how to survive poverty and slander. Her thin shoulders had become the shelter for 3 small lives. Yet sometimes, the memory of that man in the storm returned on rainy nights. Those blue eyes reminded her that there was once a moment when she was seen as worthy. She told herself it was only a fleeting illusion, but deep down, Naomi still held a fragile hope that somewhere, someone believed her, understood her, and saw the true worth of this little family. Nearly 2 years had passed since that fateful night on I-95. Yet, Ethan Caldwell still clung to a single thread, the fragile gold necklace engraved with the initials EB, while the Caldwell empire staggered, waiting for his hand at the helm. While business partners pressed him to return to the boardroom, Ethan cared about only one thing: finding the woman who had pulled him back from death's edge. Thomas Blake, the private investigator Ethan had hired, was used to wealthy clients, but even he was unsettled by Ethan's obsession. For months, Blake scoured hospital records, questioned witnesses, chased the smallest rumors. Time after time, he returned with a shake of his head. Nothing. It's like she vanished. Yet Ethan never gave up. One spring evening, as the city glowed with lights, Blake entered Caldwell's office with a thick file. His face was no longer detached but heavy, as though he carried news that could change everything. "I think I've found her," Blake said slowly, laying photos on the table. Ethan grabbed them. The first image seized his heart. A thin and tired young woman still carrying a quiet beauty, pushing an old stroller down a rundown street. 3 children crowded inside, 2 curly-haired girls and a boy clutching a teddy bear. Ethan would know her anywhere. Those eyes, that carriage, even worn down by hardship. It was her, the woman from the storm. His hands trembled as he touched the photo, voice breaking. "It's her. Naomi." Blake cleared his throat. "Her name is Naomi Brooks. She lives above a Vietnamese family's laundromat in apartment 3B, Jefferson Avenue. No husband. Works odd jobs, office cleaning, waitressing, and part-time nurse's aide. And," he paused, meeting Ethan's eyes, "she's raising 3 children, not her own." Ethan looked up, stunned. 3 children. They're not hers. Blake shook his head. "Records show they belong to Danielle Harris, Naomi's best friend, killed in an accident. Naomi took them in when they were barely toddlers, but her neighbors don't know or don't care. In that neighborhood, rumors spread that she had 3 kids with 3 different men. Some even call her a prostitute." Ethan sat frozen, rage boiling not at Naomi, but at the cruelty of those tongues. He remembered the proud fire in her eyes that stormy night, the courage with which she risked her life for a stranger. A woman like that could never be what they claimed. He whispered, like a vow, "She saved my life. I know who she really is. I won't let lies destroy her." Blake tapped a finger on the desk. "Mr. Caldwell, be warned. Naomi lives under constant scrutiny. The arrival of a rich man like you will only make things harder. If you truly want to approach her, you'll need caution." Ethan nodded, but his eyes stayed fixed on the photo of Naomi bending to tie a child's shoelace. Her gaze was tender, full of love, the gaze of a true mother. In that moment, Ethan realized his search was not only for his savior, it was for his own heart lost long ago in cold boardrooms. Days later, Ethan no longer resembled a busy executive but a quiet shadow. He drove out of Manhattan, away from gleaming towers, into Jefferson Avenue, the kind of street maps warned the wealthy to avoid. It was a different world. Flickering streetlights, trash, strewn sidewalks, walls scarred with graffiti. Children ran barefoot, while young men loitered outside liquor stores, their eyes narrowing at the sight of a luxury car pulling in. Ethan dressed plainly: jacket, baseball cap, but his Mercedes gleamed too brightly, out of place. He cut the engine and sat in the dark, eyes on the 3rd floor above Nguyen's laundromat. A window glowed faintly yellow. Then she appeared, Naomi holding the little boy in her arms, 2 girls trailing behind. Even from afar, Ethan knew her slender frame. He sat there for hours, silently watching. Naomi was soothing Caleb to sleep. Grace bent over a battered book, and Joy hummed to herself. Long after the lights went out, Ethan stayed, overwhelmed by sorrow and awe. Though crushed by poverty, This woman still sustained her family with unbroken love. Another time, he followed them to the supermarket. From a distance, he saw Naomi counting coins for a milk carton. Short a few dollars, she bit her lip and quietly put a jar of coffee back on the shelf. The children lowered their eyes, saying nothing, just nodding. Ethan's chest tightened. He wanted to step forward and pay the bill, but he knew it might shame her. At the checkout, he heard the cashier mutter, "3 kids, 3 daddies," and she still walks around with her head up. Naomi didn't react, only pushed the cart out. But outside, her shoulders shook. Ethan's knuckles turned white around his steering wheel. He swore one day he would silence those cruel words forever. Blake, seeing Ethan consumed by this, tried reason. "You've found her. Now what? Step into Naomi's life, and you inherit her burdens. 3 children, poverty, a hostile neighborhood. Are you ready for that?" Ethan stared out the window at the falling rain. His voice was steady. "I once had everything and lost my father anyway. I won't waste a second chance. I don't care about her poverty. She gave me a reason to live." Blake said nothing more. He knew reason was useless against such conviction. Ethan lay in his penthouse that night, but his mind was elsewhere. He imagined Naomi holding her children close, singing softly to them. He heard her voice from memory, "You're not allowed to die." And he knew she had given him a new life. For Ethan, the journey was no longer about repayment. It was about longing for a real family, something money had never bought. Deep inside he knew, soon, he would not just watch from a distance. One day, he would knock on the door of apartment 3B on Jefferson Avenue, face Naomi and her 3 children, and begin a new chapter. Late Saturday afternoon, the sky hung heavy and grey. Jefferson Avenue reeked of grease and damp trash after the morning rain. Naomi Brooks hurried along, Grace and Joy at her sides, while Caleb sat in the battered stroller. In her purse, less than $40, just enough for milk, bread, and a little produce. The corner grocery, with its flickering neon sign and chipped facade, was Naomi's regular stop. The owner, Mr. Patterson, was known for stinginess and a sharp tongue. Naomi disliked him, but his was the only store willing to let her run a trim tab in this neighborhood. Inside, the air was thick with heat, plastic, and sweat. Naomi picked carefully, checking each price. Grace silently counted the cartons of milk. Joy tugged Caleb's hand playfully, while the little boy hummed a hymn under his breath. All was steady until Naomi placed the items on the counter. Mr. Patterson scanned her from head to toe, his lips curling. "You again. Got enough this time? Don't waste my time." Naomi tightened her grip on the bag strap, answering calmly, "I have the money, sir. Please ring it up." The register beeped, $23.47. Naomi unfolded crumpled bills, counting them slowly. In the end, she was $3 short. Her face paled. Grace noticed, clutching her hand, whispering, "Mama, I don't need the cookies. Put them back." Naomi bit her lip, then said, softly, "I'll leave the coffee. The kids need milk more." Patterson snorted. "I wonder how a woman with 3 kids and no fathers still manages coffee, or maybe some gentleman friend keeps her supplied." A few customers turned to stare, murmuring. Naomi lowered her head, cheeks burning. Grace clung tighter. Joy's eyes widened. Caleb's song fell silent. Then a voice cut through the air behind them. "I'll cover the difference. And the rest of her groceries, too." Naomi froze. She turned, and there he was. In a dark blue coat, brown hair slightly tousled, stood the man she thought existed only in memory. Those piercing blue eyes, the ones that haunted her for 2 years, were fixed on her now. Her chest tightened, breath caught in her throat. "You," she whispered, then stopped. Ethan Caldwell laid a $50 bill on the counter, his voice low, steady. "Keep the change." Patterson faltered, muttered under his breath, then fell silent. The store hushed. Naomi stood motionless, eyes glistening. For 2 years, she had told herself he'd forgotten, yet here he was, flesh and blood before her. Ethan's gaze never left her. "Naomi," he murmured, voice breaking. In that instant, the world around them disappeared. The storm night surged back, shattered glass, her hand on his wound, his broken whisper calling her an angel. Tears welled as Naomi nodded. I never thought we'd meet again." Ethan smiled, a look of relief and awe. "I've been searching for you for 2 years." But as emotions swelled, Naomi's instinct snapped sharp. The stairs, the rumor's life was already hard enough. If the neighborhood saw a wealthy white man buying her groceries, the gossip would explode by morning. She turned, her voice low but firm. "You shouldn't be here. They'll say worse things." Ethan stepped closer, lowering his tone. "I don't care what they say. I care about you." Naomi shook her head, forcing steadiness. "Not here. If you really want to talk, meet me at Roosevelt Park. Tomorrow, noon." Ethan nodded, eyes alight. "I'll be there, anytime you want." Naomi lifted Caleb, took the girl's hands, and left quickly, heart pounding. Behind her, she felt Ethan's gaze clinging, as though to hold her after all the lost time. Outside, the wind slapped cold across her face. The children chattered beside her, still unaware of the moment's weight. Grace frowned, eyes dark and searching for answers. Joy asked in a rush, "Mama, who was that man? He was so handsome. Did he buy our milk?" Naomi's grip tightened, her thoughts a storm. She whispered only, "Tomorrow Mama will explain." She knew she couldn't keep running, but she also knew Ethan Caldwell's presence could shatter the fragile balance she had fought to build these past 2 years. Back inside, Ethan lingered. Patterson gathered the bill silently, customers exchanging wary glances under Ethan's sharp stare. He didn't care. His mind was filled with Naomi, her tear-brimmed eyes, her trembling recognition. 2 years. How many times had he wondered if she was alive, if she remembered him? Now, hearing her voice again, everything he had waited for was real. Ethan left the store, stepping into the damp street. He watched Naomi's figure fade at the end of the block, resolve burning in his chest. Tomorrow, Roosevelt Park. He would hear everything. That night, Naomi lay restless in the dark. The small room was hushed except for her children's steady breathing. But Ethan's face replayed in her mind. Tall, blue-eyed, his voice deep and constant. It made her tremble with both fear and longing. She remembered the storm, the grip of his bloodied hand, his faint whisper, "You look like an angel." For 2 years, the memory had drawn tears in the night. And for 2 years, she forced herself to believe he'd forgotten that they belonged to different worlds. Now, those worlds had collided again, and Naomi was afraid. Afraid his presence would stir harsher rumors, afraid CPS might seize the excuse to take her children, terrified that once Ethan saw her real life, his admiration would curdle into pity. Meanwhile, Ethan returned to his penthouse, unable to focus on anything. The lavish dinner went untouched. His phone rang with boardroom reminders. He ignored them. He stood at the window, staring at the city's sprawl, yet seeing only Naomi's face. He remembered her wary glance as she left, her whispered summons to the park. To him, it wasn't just an appointment. It was his chance finally to thank her, to ask why she vanished that night, and most of all, to tell her he had never stopped searching. The next morning, Naomi prepared a simple breakfast, thin porridge and a few apple slices. Grace watched quietly, then blurted, "Mama, the man yesterday, was he your friend?" Naomi paused, then nodded faintly. "Yes, a man who passed through my life on a rainy night." Joy squealed, "So you'll see him again. Can we come too?" Naomi quickly stroked her hair. "No, today you'll stay with Mrs. Wen. Mama has something to do." Grace's eyes lingered, thoughtful, but she said nothing. Naomi knew her eldest understood more than she let on. By noon, Roosevelt Park shimmered under rare winter sunlight. Leaves crackled underfoot, children darted around the playground, and older men hunched over chessboards. Naomi strolled, her heart pounding, scanning the grounds, and then she saw Ethan Caldwell waiting on a bench, his posture patient yet taut with nerves. In that moment, Naomi knew. Her life was about to turn. This meeting would change everything whether she wanted it to or not. Roosevelt Park was livelier than usual that noon. Children squealed on the swings, teenagers clashed on the basketball court, and older men lined the benches playing chess. But in Naomi Brooks's eyes, all blurred away. Only one figure remained clear. Ethan Caldwell, waiting. He wore simple clothes, a dark blue sweater, jeans, and sneakers. No luxurious suit, no CEO presence, just a man with blue eyes glowing with light. That simplicity alone tightened Naomi's chest. She walked closer, every step heavy. Ethan turned, his face breaking into a smile. Naomi. She stopped, keeping a careful distance. Her heart pounded, but her voice stayed steady. You shouldn't have looked for me. Ethan shook his head, his tone low but firm. I've searched for you for 2 years. Do you think I'd give up now? Naomi lowered her eyes, fingers clutching her bag strap. The wind tugged strands of hair across her cheek. After a pause, she whispered, You don't know who I am. You only know a piece of me from that storm. I'm not the angel you imagine. Ethan stepped closer, his gaze softening. I never called you an angel out of fantasy. I called you that because, in that moment, you gave me a reason to live. Naomi lifted her eyes, shimmering with tears. Her voice trembled. Do you know what they say about me? That I had 3 children by 3 men, that I sell myself to get by. Can you stand it, hearing those words about me? Ethan paused, then answered firmly, I don't care what they say. I only care about what I see in your eyes. And I've never seen a lie there. Naomi gave a small, bitter laugh. You still don't understand. They're not my own children. They're Danielle's, my best friend who died in an accident. I promised to raise them, even though I had nothing. I gave up every dream and future to keep that promise. Do you know what kind of weight that is? Ethan's eyes went distant, then back to her, warm. I do. Because I lost my father without a chance to make peace. And when I woke, the only person who gave me a chance to live again was you. Naomi, you think it's a burden, but to me, it's a strength. You're stronger than anyone I've ever known. Naomi shook, his words striking deep inside where she'd hidden her pain. But she whispered still, Love doesn't pay rent. Love doesn't buy milk. I don't need a rich man's pity. Ethan cut in quickly. This isn't pity. This is love. I've loved you since the moment our eyes met in that wreck. And it didn't fade in 2 years of searching. I'm not here to rescue you. I beg you to rescue me again by letting me be part of your family. Naomi froze, her heart torn. Love, the word she had erased from her life, sounded impossibly real here, in a winter park. From a man so steady, it scared her. Ethan stepped closer, his voice gentle yet unwavering. Naomi, you've raised 3 children not of your blood with all your heart. What do you think they need most? Not money, not status. They need a father willing to love them as his own. Let me be that man. Tears broke down her cheeks. She wanted to believe, to collapse into those arms. But the memories of scorn and cruel whispers held her back. She whispered, If you knew every ugly thing they say, you'd regret it. Ethan smiled faintly. I'd only regret losing you again. Naomi sat heavily on a bench, her hands trembling together. Ethan sat across, his eyes fixed on her. Silence stretched, broken only by children's laughter and rustling leaves. You don't understand, Naomi murmured. For 2 years, they've looked at me like dirt. They've called me names I can't repeat. I learned to endure it. But if you step in, it will get worse. They'll say I cling to you for money. Ethan shook his head slowly. Let them talk. I spent my life pleasing others, my father, the board, shareholders, the press. And I still lost my father without saying I loved him. I won't make that mistake again. This time, I live for what's true. And the truth is, my heart is here with you and the kids. Naomi's tearful gaze met his. She saw sincerity unshakable, yet fear lingered. You haven't seen me rise at 4 to clean offices, then rush home to cook porridge. You haven't seen me choose between Caleb's medicine and the electric bill. That's my life, Ethan, not your world. Ethan's voice dropped, heavy with tenderness. I have seen it. I've watched long enough. I saw you count coins in the store, sing lullabies with a tired voice, and turn hardship into fairy tales so the kids wouldn't cry. And because I've seen it, I love you more. Naomi stiffened. His words pierced the walls she had built so carefully. She tried to hold firm. You don't know what loving someone like me means. Not just 3 children, but every scar, every rumor that will stick to you. Ethan reached out, then stopped short, leaving the choice hers. Naomi, I didn't come to you to avoid scars. I came because you healed mine, the worst one, meaninglessness. You showed me life has worth and that love can exist even in storms. I don't fear their judgment. I only fear losing you. For the first time in 2 years, Naomi broke down in sobs, not the silent tears of long nights, but an open, shaking release. Ethan slid closer, arms opening. She hesitated a heartbeat, then leaned into him, her tears soaking his sweater. He whispered, I can't promise to erase every hardship, but I promise to share them. I promise to love those children as my own. And I promise I won't leave, no matter what the world says. Naomi closed her eyes, resting against his steady heartbeat. She thought of Grace's wise gaze, Joy's radiant laugh, Caleb's tender song. She knew accepting Ethan meant opening the door to an entirely new life. It meant trusting again, after so much loss. She lifted her head, eyes swollen, whispering, If you want to step in, know I'm not just Naomi. I'm the mother of Grace, Joy, and Caleb. If you love me, you must love them too. Ethan's smile glowed. I already do. I knew when I saw you tie her shoelace in the store. They are part of you, making them part of me. They sat side by side as the cold wind swept away the last doubts. Naomi hadn't spoken. I trust you, but her heart had begun to kindle that flame. And Ethan, after 2 years of searching, finally felt himself come home to the reason to live, love, and be human truly. When Naomi Brooks and Ethan Caldwell left Roosevelt Park that afternoon, both carried a strange blend of newness and familiarity. For Naomi, fear lingered, yet something had shifted. For the first time in years, she didn't feel utterly alone. Ethan's heart brimmed with certainty he was one step closer to the home he had always longed for. But Jefferson Avenue was no place for love to bloom quietly. In this neighborhood, prying eyes and cruel tongues spread faster than any news. Ethan's mere presence was enough to set the streets ablaze with gossip the next morning. See? Told you. She finally hooked a rich one. A shiny Mercedes parked outside the laundromat last night. Who else would it be for? 3 kids, 3 fathers wasn't enough now. She's got herself a white sugar daddy. The whispers drifted from stoops, stores, and the apartment below. Naomi heard them each time she stepped outside. Grace heard too, and her young eyes grew heavier with sorrow. Joy asked her, Mama, why do they say mean things about us? Caleb said nothing, clinging silently to her skirt as if afraid to be taken. Rumors didn't stop at words. Someone, likely Mrs. Whitaker downstairs, called Child Protective Services. The complaint read, a poor black woman raising 3 children of unknown fathers, frequently entertaining strange men. Unsafe environment for minors. 3 days later, Naomi came home from her morning shift, still in her scrubs when a sharp knock rattled the door. Opening it, she found 2 women in suits, files thick in hand. One spoke crisply, I'm Patricia Williams, caseworker with CPS. This is my colleague, Janet Morrison. We've received a report regarding your household and need to conduct an inspection. Naomi's stomach dropped. Her heart hammered. The children clung to her skirt, their faces fearful. There's nothing wrong here, she stammered. I take care of them. They're my whole world. Patricia's tone stayed professional, but her eyes cut sharply. We need to see for ourselves. They entered the cramped apartment. Janet made notes. A small, peeling room, 3 tiny mattresses pressed together, a fridge with little inside. Patricia pressed questions. Do you have legal documents proving guardianship of these children? Yes. Temporary authorization from their mother, Danielle Harris. She passed away. Stable income? I work 3 jobs. It's not much, but yes. And the man seen recently around your apartment. Who is he? Naomi froze. Ethan. Even his name could be twisted against her. She swallowed hard, voice breaking. Anne, old friend, not connected to the children. The caseworkers exchanged glances, then scribbled more notes. At the door, Patricia's tone stayed flat. We'll review your file. If we determine the environment is unsafe, we have the authority to place the children in temporary foster care." The door closed. Naomi's back hit the wall, and her legs nearly gave out. The children rushed to her, their faces pale. Grace whispered, "Mama, will they take us away?" Naomi pulled them tight, tears spilling. "No, no one will take you from me. I'll fight to the end." But inside, terror raged like a storm. The news of CPS's visit spread even faster than the winter wind. The next day, the stares were sharper when Naomi walked the children out for bread. Someone muttered in fake sympathy, "Poor kids. At least they'll be rescued soon." Another scoffed. Finally, the system noticed. "I said it, no woman raising 3 bastards alone can do it right." Naomi gripped her children's hands and marched on, fury and despair twisting inside her. She was used to whispers, but this was different. Now the state could take her family. That night, sleep never came. The apartment was quiet except for the children's soft breaths. Naomi sat by the window, eyes red. She thought of Evelyn, her grandmother, who taught her that faith kept one standing. She thought of Danielle, who entrusted 3 lives to her. And she thought of Ethan, the man who reappeared when she broke. Her heart split. Part of her longed to run to him, beg for help. But another part feared his involvement would only confirm the lies Naomi lived off men. The next morning, Ethan appeared outside the laundromat, worry etched on his face. Naomi stepped out, hollow-eyed. He asked softly, "I heard. CPS came, didn't they?" Naomi was silent for a beat, then nodded. Tears threatened, but she held them back. "They said they might take the children." Ethan's fists clenched. "I won't let that happen, Naomi. We'll get a lawyer. We'll prove you're fit. If needed, I'll stand as guarantor." Naomi's eyes widened in alarm. "No. If you step in, they'll think you're bankrolling me. They'll use it against me." "So, you want to face this alone?" Ethan's voice cracked. "Naomi, I can't just stand by and watch you break." She turned away, shoulders trembling, whispered, "I'm afraid, more than anything, of losing them. If CPS has an excuse because of me, I'll never forgive myself." That afternoon, Patricia and Janet returned with more files. Patricia's tone was blunt. "We need further proof you can provide for these children. Otherwise, they'll be placed in temporary care." Naomi's voice shook. "Please, give me time. I work every day. I feed them. I love them. I promise their mother." Grace suddenly stepped forward, grasping Patricia's hand, her 6-year-old eyes steady and solemn. "Please don't take us. Mama loves us more than anything. She wakes before dawn, works all day, and tells nightly stories. She's the best mama, Patricia faltered." Janet hesitated as joy clung to Naomi's leg and Caleb began to sing softly. "Amazing Grace," a fragile plea in a child's voice. For a long moment, silence held. Patricia finally closed her file, her tone softer. "We'll note this, but you must be prepared. The final decision comes in 72 hours. Naomi collapsed onto the floor when the door shut, clutching the children as tears poured. Her whisper broke like a vow. "Mama won't let anyone take you. I'll fight, even if it's against the whole world." In the corner, Ethan, who had watched silently, tightened his fists. He understood now. This wasn't just about finding his savior anymore. It was a battle for a family's very existence. And he would stand with Naomi, no matter the cost. The 3 days CPS gave Naomi Brooks passed in suffocating tension. She worked, she prayed, but every knock at the door made her stomach twist with dread. Grace stayed close, her young eyes oddly solemn. Joy stopped singing, repeating the same anxious question. "Mama, will they take us?" Caleb clung to her shirt constantly, refusing to let go. Ethan Caldwell never left Jefferson Avenue. He lingered beneath the flickering street lamp each night, watching the faint glow from the 3rd-floor window and listening for the children's voices. Naomi wanted to face this alone, but Ethan knew she couldn't forever. On the 2nd morning, Ethan called Thomas Blake. "Blake, dig into Danielle Harris's past. Letters, documents, and anything else proved Naomi was entrusted to the children. Even a note could save them." Blake frowned. You're challenging CPS, Ethan. This isn't Wall Street. They hold real power. Ethan's voice was iron. I don't care. They must see Naomi for who she is, the truest mother I've ever met. That afternoon, while Naomi folded laundry at the laundromat, an older woman entered, silver-haired, slender, with eyes firm as steel. She introduced herself. I'm Dorothy Harris, Danielle's aunt. Naomi froze, dropping the shirt in her hands. Your family? Dorothy nodded. I lived in Pennsylvania, estranged for years. Only recently did I learn of Danielle's death and that you're raising her children. She pulled a worn envelope from her bag. Danielle wrote me often. In these letters, she said if anything happened, she trusted only you to raise her kids. Naomi's hands shook as she opened them. The familiar handwriting blurred through her tears. Naomi is my sister. If I'm gone, please let her keep my babies. I trust her more than myself. Ethan arrived soon after. Seeing the letters, he gripped Naomi's shoulders. This is it. They can't take the kids now. Dorothy studied him carefully. And you are? Ethan Caldwell. A man who owes Naomi his life and stands with her now. Dorothy smiled faintly. Then we fight together. Danielle chose well. On the third day, Patricia and Janet from CPS returned. To their surprise, Naomi wasn't alone. Ethan, Blake, and Dorothy stood by her. Naomi handed them the envelope, voice steady. These prove Danielle entrusted me with her children. I didn't steal them. I kept my promise. Dorothy added firmly, this is my niece's handwriting, and I attest Naomi has raised them with devotion. To tear them away would be a crime. Patricia read silently, her stern face softening. Janet sighed, her voice low. We've never seen foster children bond so deeply with a caregiver. These kids are happy, even in poverty. Naomi's tears spilled as she spoke. I don't ask for pity. I only ask for fairness. They've already lost their mother, don't make them lose me too. Silence pressed heavily, broken only by the tick of the clock. Patricia laid the letters down, fingers tapping her file. She looked long at Naomi, her suspicion gone. Janet wrote quickly, then said gently, we can't ignore this. These letters prove Danielle's intent, supported by family testimony. That carries weight. Naomi held her breath. The children sat still, wide-eyed. Patricia continued, but paper isn't all that matters. This apartment is small, and your income is unstable. Yet the children are clearly bonded and loved. We cannot deny that. Instead of removal, we'll set up a support plan. For a heartbeat, Naomi was stunned. Then she burst into sobs, clutching Grace, Joy, and Caleb. The children cried too, but with relief. Ethan sat close, gripping Naomi's hand, as if anchoring her. As the caseworkers prepared to leave, he spoke. I'm willing to contribute financially to improve their living conditions, not to diminish Naomi's independence, but because these children deserve better. Patricia hesitated, then nodded. If this is a genuine partnership, we can factor it in, but CPS will monitor to ensure stability. We won't separate the family, but oversight continues. Naomi nodded rapidly, tears streaming. The scales didn't tip wholly toward injustice for the first time in years. News swept through Jefferson Avenue within hours. The gossip fell silent. Even Mrs. Whitaker avoided Naomi's eyes on the stairs. Mrs. Nguyen from the laundromat brought a pot of soup upstairs, whispering, I always believed in you. Now they all see the truth. That night, joy filled the cramped apartment. Ethan sat with the children. Grace asked seriously, Mr. Ethan, will you leave? Or will you stay with us and Mama? Ethan smiled, kneeling to her level. If you'll let me, I want to stay. Not just tonight, always. Joy squealed, throwing her arms around him. I want a daddy. Caleb chimed in with a sweet, shaky, amazing grace, sealing it. Naomi stood in the corner, hand over her mouth, tears falling, smile glowing. Later, with the children asleep, Naomi sat at the window, Ethan beside her. The city hummed outside, but they heard only each other's hearts. She whispered, I thought I'd lose everything, but today, thanks to you, thanks to Dorothy, I see truth can win. I don't have to fight alone anymore. Ethan wrapped his arm around her shoulders, voice steady. "From now on, you'll never be alone. We are a family, and nothing can break us apart." Naomi leaned into him, allowing herself to believe for the first time in years. Spring came early that year, carrying warmth and cherry blossoms that painted Roosevelt Park, the place Naomi Brooks and Ethan Caldwell first opened their hearts. But this time, they returned not with fear, but with joy. Ethan held Naomi's hand, his blue eyes radiant. Before them stood Pastor Williams from Trinity Baptist, surrounded by dozens of neighbors, some who once doubted, now gathered for a simple yet deeply heartfelt wedding. Dorothy sat proudly in the front row. The children were dressed in their finest, Grace in a plain white dress, Joy twirling in bright pink, and Caleb beaming as he fixed the tiny bow at his collar. The pastor's voice rang out, "Today, we witness not only a marriage, but the triumph of love over prejudice, perseverance over scorn." Naomi looked at Ethan, eyes brimming with tears. Memories flashed, nights dreading CPS's knock, whispers of gossip, mornings of bone-deep exhaustion, and then the memory of Ethan's hand in hers, his promise, "I will never let you stand alone." When asked about their vows, Ethan spoke firmly, "I vow to love Naomi all my life, and I vow to love Grace, Joy, and Caleb as my flesh and blood." The children cheered, "Yeah," and laughter rippled through the park. Naomi wept, but her tears were of joy. She answered, "I vow to trust in our love, and I vow to raise our children with you so they grow up in love, not prejudice." Applause thundered as they kissed beneath the falling petals. Afterward, they moved into a larger, brighter apartment in Newark, spacious enough for each child to have a room. Grace finally had her own bookshelf, Joy a corner for dancing and drawing, and Caleb a small piano gifted by Ethan. Their first dinner there was a feast of simple happiness. Naomi cooked Evelyn's chicken stew. Ethan brought wine from the Caldwell cellar. Grace proudly read aloud. Joy told jokes until they all laughed, and Caleb tapped hesitant but cheerful notes on his piano. Naomi watched in wonder. From a damp third-floor room to this table, every tear shed along the way had led here. But prejudice lingered outside. Some in Ethan's wealthy circle sneered at Naomi, a black woman, once poor, raising children not her own. Yet Ethan never faltered. "Before the press," he declared, "this is my wife. She saved my life and taught me what love means. No one has the right to look down on her." The statement caused a stir, but silenced many critics. Naomi, though fearful, stood tall at his side. One late evening, after the children were asleep, Naomi stood on the balcony overlooking the glowing city. Ethan wrapped her in his arms. "I used to think success meant numbers on a ledger. I know success is seeing you smile, hearing the kids call me Dad." Naomi leaned into him, eyes shining. "I used to think life was only loss, but now I see love can rebuild everything." Their new chapter deepened in court, where they officially adopted the children. No cameras, no flashbulbs, just Naomi, Ethan, Dorothy, and the three little ones before a family judge. Grace wore pale blue, solemn as a grown-up. Joy clutched a wildflower bouquet, Caleb his ragged teddy bear. When the judge read their new names, Grace Caldwell, Joy Caldwell, Caleb Caldwell, all three turned toward Ethan. Joy shouted, "We really have a dad now." Caleb hugged Ethan's leg, singing softly, "Amazing Grace." Grace whispered, eyes shining, "We're a real family now, aren't we, Dad?" Ethan held them all, tears streaking his face. "We always were a family." Today, the papers just caught up. Naomi gripped Dorothy's hand, trembling. Dorothy whispered, "Danielle is smiling somewhere." Life blossomed with small joys. Grace learned chess from Ethan and often beat him. Joy discovered her passion for dancing, spinning through the apartment. Caleb grew entranced by the piano, slowly finding melodies. Naomi transformed, too. She walked with pride, no longer shrinking from stares, smiling more, enrolling in night nursing classes with Ethan's steady support. For the first time, she imagined a future beyond mere survival. One summer afternoon, the family returned to Roosevelt Park. They sat beneath the great tree where Naomi once wept in Ethan's arms. This time, only laughter filled the air. "Mama, tell the story of the princess saving the prince." Joy begged. Naomi laughed, glancing at Ethan. He played along. It began on a stormy night. A brave princess saved a foolish prince trapped in a car. The kids roared with laughter. Grace added solemnly, and the princess raised 3 orphans and never let anyone take them away. Caleb sang, "Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound," drawing smiles from passers-by. Naomi hugged them, eyes glowing as she turned to Ethan. "I never thought a fairy tale could happen to me, but it did." Ethan squeezed her hand. "Not a fairy tale. This is the life we fought for." As the children slept that night, Naomi stood with Ethan on the balcony. She placed a trembling hand on her belly and whispered, "I have news. We're having a baby." Ethan froze, then pulled her into his arms, laughing and crying. "A baby ours. Another piece of our family." Naomi smiled through tears. "Grace will teach them to read. Joy will dance for them. Caleb will play piano. And we'll raise them together." Ethan kissed her forehead, voice fierce with love. "Our family will always be whole. No rumor, no prejudice will ever tear us apart again." When autumn painted the streets crimson, Naomi looked back. From one stormy night when she saved a stranger, everything had changed. She had lost much but gained far more. A devoted husband, 3 children safe in her arms, and a future bursting with light. Caleb's song echoed in her heart, the anthem of their journey, "Amazing Grace." And Naomi knew that love, once thought a luxury, had been the force that saved them all.